In the first part of this broadcast, we had indicated that we were going to tell our people exactly what to do to put guns in the hands of those who are being invaded with AK-47 bearing Fulani militia, and with the complicity and facilitation of our government and its military. Let us cast our mind back to how we got to where things are now. We remember that when the Buhari government tried the first made the first attempt in the National Assembly to pass the grazing reserve law, some kind of law that will create Ruga, Fulani settlement, Fulani colony all over Nigeria, it was blocked. After a while, they brought the same bill back under another cover to say grazing roads. Oh, there were roads before independence, all that. It didn't work. Then they came back, say, oh, Ruga. It didn't work. National livestock, which they sent Oshimbajo to go to lunch. National livestock, whatever. Just something that will demarcate lands that Fulani cows, Fulani and their cow, could live on outside the laws that prevail, outside the current laws. And so they tried all kinds of things, even the waterway bills by which they want to take over body of waters and all the adjoining lands throughout the country. None of those things worked. Somewhere along the line, Buhari attempted to resort to executive fiat. So by executive order, he said they should bring to him the file of all the grazing reserves so that without recourse to National Assembly, they will mark out those, lands, vast, swaths of land across the land. Of course, the people were already too alert to allow that to happen, because they actually went to some places to try to set up, having marked out on their papers where the lands would be. I remember they went to Benue and people came to chase them out of their lands, because under the Land Use Act, all lands vest, title to all lands vest in governors. The federal government of Nigeria does not have 1 square inch of land. The federal government of Nigeria does not have 1 square inch of land. All title to all lands vest in governors. Even the Federal Capital Territory is neither here nor there, because by the time we settle the larger question, the indigents of that Federal Capital Territory will be the one to decide who owns their land, except they give it up. The same thing that happened to everything done by decree since 1966 will happen to the title deed over the Federal Capital Territory land that the so-called federal government is holding. So back to the matter of where the Fulani marauders are currently operating from. Buhari then resorted to something worse. He sent out a signal. He sent out an order as commander-in-chief. There's the office of the president. There's also the office of the commander-in-chief. Most of our people do not know the difference. There are things your president can do as president. There are other things he does as commander-in-chief. As commander-in-chief, he then issued instruction to all the military locations that the lands behind their, barracks and battalions and cantonments, wherever the military is stationed, that has land behind. Normally they will have some bush behind the barracks where they do trainings or shooting range or all kinds of bush exercise in most of the military facilities. He then said that the Fulani herdsmen who are already here with their cows, who have been more or less challenged as they go about destroying people's farms, that those bushes directly at the back of those military facilities should be made available to the Fulani and their cows until the settlements are otherwise created by law. So, since it is a military matter, they didn't need to talk to anybody else. So, the barracks were all thrown open. The bushes behind them received all the cows, and in the process, people inside, the officers from that part, from the Sharia belt in the barracks, were now in direct, residential arrangement with the Fulani, who then keep their cows in those bushes. So those lands immediately behind the barracks became the first set of rugas across the country. We will remember the incident in Okitipupa, where 31 buses or so came with people in broad daylight, young people, and the community people were, they became curious. They wanted to know where these ones were going. They headed to the barrack in the place, to the military facility in the place. The people at the gate probably didn't get their instructions in good time. And in that process of stopping them, the community people came there to ask their questions. And it turned out the people said they had just finished some training somewhere that they were to, it turned out to be Fulani men who were coming to be discharged in that number into that military facility. Eventually, instruction came while they were in that debate, and they were received inside the place. And later, the reason the community chased after them was because there had been previous batches of people who were brought like that and who ended up, and they noticed increased activities from the area behind the barrack in terms of where the herdsmen go back to, So, as it is in Okitipupa, so it is in Ohafia, so it is in all the places that, whether you went to Abeokuta, whether you went to Ibadan, everywhere the military facilities are, the Fulani were given authority to keep their cows and operate from those. So police, when they cause damage to you, which police are you going to tell that, the Fulani herdsmen that are operating from military barracks? They've even gone ahead to give them some kind of identity cards in all those locations where they are operating from. And so we come back to what do we do right now to put guns in the hands of the people who are being tormented, who are being invaded. The constitutional force majeure that we activated on the 16th of December in 2020 has gone through the implementation phases that involved enlightenment and mobilization, going towards enforcement now. And we have come to where we must activate the armed self-defense component of the self-determination that is being asserted. And how will it go? How was it designed to go? How can it go now? The governors will remember that on the 17th of April in 2021, after the 90 days had lapsed, the 90 days notice we gave to the federal government to come to the discussion of this union dispute raised. It lapsed on the 16th of March. So by the 17th, we then invited the governors to come in 30 days that followed to the discussion, because the federal government is on one side. The governors will either be on the side of their people in this debate or cling with the side of the enemy holding that constitution as sacrosanct. The people have repudiated this constitution. I'm sure we remember by Solomon Assembly in Port Harcourt, 27 April 2015, the peoples of the lower Niger, that's the south, south, and southeast, or the old Midwestern region and eastern region, the nationalities spread across those 11 states of now, had gathered as ethnic nations in Port Harcourt to repudiate that constitution to the hearing of the whole world. On the 7th of September in 2017, the Yoruba did a similar thing. Yoruba Solemn Assembly at Adamasingba Stadium in Ibadan. Their governors were all present. Their traditional rulers were present, including the Oni, and all kinds of their political leaders, repudiating that constitution as basis of union for them. On the 18th of July in 2018, the Middle Belt did likewise. And so, having all repudiated that constitution, it is that constitution by its exclusive list that sequestered the control of arms to the government, federal government. It is that constitution that forbids the states from touching arms or ammunition. It is that constitution that put police and other security, army and all the other things in between in the hands of the federal government exclusively. And so, the peoples of the land, the indigenous nationalities of Nigeria, in exercise of their sovereignty, have repudiated the constitution by which their sovereignty is confiscated and detained, by which they are exposed to this kind of danger of being killed because there's some federal government that has exclusive control over guns. And so, on the 17th of April 2021, NINAS then invited the governors to specific actions they must take after the 30-day consultation. Those actions, boil down to going to send bills to the state assembly, their state assemblies, because they have to be either on the side of their people who are being invaded and killed, or on the side of the enemy that is hanging onto that constitution as basis of union. Their people have rejected that constitution that tied their hands and removed guns from their hands. So the governors were invited to now step up to fill the gap. The federal government, the complicity of the federal government is no longer in dispute. Danjuma told us in 2018, in March 2018, that the government of Nigeria was complicit in the invasion that was going on, that people should get ready to defend themselves. Again, we had the privilege of going to Washington to share with those who are fighting with ISIS, to say that ISIS is now in our sub-region. In fact, headquartered in our country, and that our president and commander-in-chief seem to be their chief host. Of course, things have happened to show abundantly that there's complicity. Otherwise, who pulled out the soldiers that were guarding Kuje prison 24 hours before this last assault? What was it, the terror, the demand of the terror attack, the people that attacked the train between Kaduna and Abuja? What were they, what was it they were saying about some promise that was made to them that must be fulfilled concerning land and all kinds of other things? So it's no longer in doubt that there is complicity of the government of Nigeria and its armed forces, organized by the Fulani, controlled by the Fulani exclusively. And so the governors were invited to send bills. In the last broadcast we said, if our people will listen to us now, we will tell them what to do to put guns in the hands of those who have been invaded legitimately. The governors must now, this is now marching order from the owners of the sovereignty. The governors must now step into that role of filling the gap, since the federal government is not coming to defend them. Rather, the federal government is complicit in the attack. The governors must now do like Samuel Otom did, taking to the same advice, to send bills to the state assemblies. Let those state assemblies pass the bills. Let the governors sign the bills into law to issue firearms to agencies they are going to create to defend their people. It's not enough to say the people should go and defend themselves. How would they do it? How would they organize themselves to be able to push back when 200-300, militia men, Fulani militia, turn up in their communities, bearing AK-47, 3 men per motorcycle. That's the way they move. And so if you have a community that can hardly boast of 100 or 200 people, how are they going to respond if they are surrounded by 900 men carrying fully loaded AK-47? Is it by jawbone they are going to defend them? I ask Pastor Adeboye. Is it by what means? So the governors cannot be going in the name of the people to collect 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion every month. The governors cannot be collecting taxes and buying houses in Switzerland and Ikoyi for themselves. And then when it comes to doing what they should do to defend the people that are being killed, they say Constitution say there's nothing, Constitution is dead. The 1999 Constitution is no longer able to prevent you from doing whatever you can be doing for yourself. So those 68 items on the exclusive list, arms and ammunition and everything that you couldn't do. I'm sure most of us heard that Governor Fayemi in Ekiti bought drones to deploy, to even see what's going on in his forest. And he tried to go to get permission from Abuja to deploy the drones. The National Security Advisor wrote him a letter saying only the federal government can and the military can deploy drones. Governor, chief executive officer, chief security officer for a state cannot deploy drones to look into the forest to see who and who is coming and killing farmers and molesting people, because Nigeria imposed, the Fulani imposed a constitution that exclude everybody else from touching gun or taking care of their security. So where we are now is that every other suggestion about how to go and defend yourself or how to go and get gun that could be criminalized, I have to refer now to a video that has gone viral from Pastor Paul Enenche, in which he was talking about some law that permit people to defend themselves, a criminal code or penal code, in which they could, in cause of defending themselves or other people or their property, even kill their aggressor. Yes, such law exists, but there's also the Constitution that expressly make arms and ammunition the exclusive business of federal government. The implication being that if you are found with any gun that was not issued to you, authorized by the government, federal government, or any of its agencies, it is an offense in itself. There must be some mediocre lawyer that has come to make that suggestion that there is a law under which people can, because people who listen to it will think, oh, let's go and get our gun and wait. Under the Constitution that supersedes all the laws, because that's what Constitution is, it overrides the other laws. The Constitution says only the federal government and its agencies can carry arms or authorize or issue arms. Any gun not licensed by them becomes an offense if found with you. And so it is not enough to say go and defend yourself. It will be the wrong law to cite that people can go and get gun because some laws say, where the Constitution say otherwise. You are endangering the people who will listen to that instruction, to that advice. We have also heard it from a few other places where people are imagining that they could just go and get gun, everybody get gun. No, let that energy that is being used to pursue PVC now. Election is 2023. You are being, distracted from the invasion that is going on. That energy that is being used to pursue PVC should be used to compel those governors to do exactly what Samuel Autumn did. And NINAS is hoping, from where things are now, NINAS is hoping that in course of July in 2022, all the states, especially the ones that have passed anti-open grazing laws, will follow it up by passing the kind of law that Benue passed, by which firearms were issued. Because the Constitution has been repudiated by their constituents, the governors must now step into that space. Our sovereignty is on the table. If the governors don't join their people to step into that space, to make laws and issue firearms, create agencies that will stand in, not state police, not anything the National Assembly has to approve of, not anything the IG of police has to approve of. We saw the governor in Zamfara talking about police commissioners that will approve. No, you don't need anybody's approval. If the state assembly will pass the law for you to create an agency to bear arms that will defend the people from this kind of invaders. Under such laws, you can also deploy drones to monitor when they are coming. If you do not step into that role now, the terrorists, the militia, the Fulani invaders are going to step into it, like we have seen in Zamfara, where they control about 7 local government areas now collecting taxes. You cannot say you are governor and this kind of a thing is happening, and we have this kind of opening in which the constitution that has been repudiated, you are now citing it as reason why you can't. So you are standing with the enemy if you are not standing with the people. So we are inviting everybody concerned to realize that we can put guns in the hands of our people. We endanger them if we ask them to go and defend themselves. The general officers that are saying these things are surrounded by mobile policemen and soldiers, large numbers, in the place they live. But they ask villagers whose income cannot even buy one rifle. How are they going to, more or less coordinate themselves to be able to become any kind of resistance to this kind of invasion we see? They come on motorcycles. The law is on the side of the enemy. That's why the motorcycles can come from wherever they come and go as they go. We saw the other time that people tried to chase after the ones who invaded them, and military helicopters turned up in Southern Kaduna. Military helicopters turned up in the sky and cleared out the villagers so that the invaders can escape. So it is a choice that has to be made now, that those governors must now be on the side of their people to send in bills to the state assemblies, pass it into law, sign and issue firearms. We cannot be, elections will not resolve this matter. Election is the most wicked distraction in the kind of invasion that is going on. Election will not solve this problem. The Peter Obi that went to Downing Street, anybody who wants to know the role of Britain in distracting us in favor of the caliphate should go to YouTube and research the video titled Nigeria, the Pyramid of Evil. I repeat, Nigeria, the Pyramid of Evil. So that you can see that Peter Obi had been drafted. If Nigeria was working well and it's just economic problem, Peter Obi will be one of those everybody will say, let us try. He certainly has shown competence. But that's not the question now. What we are facing is an invasion by Fulani agenda, attempting to take our sovereignty, our land. If we do not find a solution to that problem, and we're talking about economic reconstruction, when the land might have been taken by the Fulani, in any event, I listened to Peter Obi on Arise TV. The reason I'm calling him out is that the young people who are going about pursuing PVC in the hope that the election of Peter Obi will solve all these problems, I'm just pointing out to them that this aspect is not covered by what Peter Obi is advertising he's going to solve. The aspect of the invasion that is going on now, election is in 2023. The invasion can overrun you before February of 2023. Anybody who is not offering us an answer, offering us a solution to that invasion is discussing something else. And listening to him on Arise TV, Peter Obi is talking about how to save Nigeria. NINAS is talking about how to save Nigerians that are trapped in the toxic unitary union defined by this constitution. There are two different campaigns. There are two different subject matters. Saving Nigeria, or saving the Nigerians that are trapped, currently trapped in Nigeria. At a time, the Fulani want to take that Nigeria for themselves. So the first urgent business is, how do we recover the land? How do we get hold of, remain the owners of the land? Because we are being overrun. We either sacrifice that Nigeria that's not working to save the Nigerians that are trapped here, being slaughtered here, or we sacrifice the millions of Nigerians that will be killed to save that Nigeria that Fulani wants to take for themselves. Let us reflect on this and make the choices we have to make. I do not want to talk about the other candidates because we already see what Atiku said about open grazing laws that have been passed by the states. He said they are unconstitutional. We saw what he did with Deborah's killing in Sokoto. He stood with his people. If Atiku becomes president, he is going to just continue the Fulani agenda. Make no mistakes about that. As for Tinubu and his APC, it's a pity that for Tinubu that went to bring this calamity upon us, the Buhari that became president, because he has not been called to account for the consequences of that terrible decision, supported by falsehood, which they spread all over the place, and the violence that was imported. Now he wants to stand on the podium of that wrongdoing to offer himself as the next president. I don't think we need to discuss that ticket. I don't think we need to discuss Atiku. That was why I went straight to the P2B that is looking like alternative to the people chasing PVC all around. Let us do first things first. That constitution has been defeated. If we don't step into our sovereignties, the invaders will step into it. I think we can stop there.